Hey, everyone. I am Jules Jessie with Converge Media, and I am with my co-host, Mr. Mike Davis with the South Seattle Emerald, and this is Clapback Culture. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing good, Julia. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. This was a really busy week for me, but I feel like I got a lot accomplished. But, you never, one more day. Let's just get to Friday. What about you?
Yeah. Now, I heard that. I had a long week, too. There's a lot going on, too. So I'm just happy to be here. I know we got a lot to talk about, but I can't wait for Friday either.
I think, I'm excited about our show tonight. We have a lot to cover. I'm going to give you guys the show. I'm going to give you guys the show highlights for today so we can know what we're going to tune into. So first, we're going to talk about the domestic terror alert. A couple headlines. We're going to chop it up about that. Joe Biden coming through again. He's being the plug for healthcare. So we're going to talk about him, putting that healthcare system back. Got to touch on Chad Wheeler. That's important. And, some of the stuff that's going on with the Seahawks. And we're going to break down a couple things on social media, the Capitol riots, arrests, and releases. Want to talk about that. And of course, we got to talk about that GameStop issue. It's all over the internet. It's gone viral. I know you got a lot to talk about. So let's just get right into it. Thank you guys for watching every single week. We love your support. We love you guys having it. So make sure to pull up in these comments. Be interactive with us, you guys, because we want to get your feedback. So first and foremost, domestic terror alert. We got a clip for you guys. We're going to run that clip, let you watch it, then we're going to come back and talk about it.
We're going to turn now to that stark new warning from the Department of Homeland Security, growing threats of violence from homegrown extremists in the wake of the Capitol siege. It's the first national terrorism advisory from DHS in a year. Our Chief Justice Correspondent Pierre Thomas is in Washington with the latest. Good morning, Pierre.
George, good morning. Alarmed by that violent insurrection at the Capitol and a steady stream of new intelligence, some authorities fear that the threat of domestic terrorism right now is as high as it's been in recent memory.
This morning, the nation on alert. Homeland Security issuing a rare urgent bulletin warning the public and police that the threat from domestic terror is high. According to the new bulletin, right-wing militants and lone wolves may target elected officials and government facilities and may be emboldened by the January 6th breach of the U.S. Capitol.
They're out there, they're angry, they're disenfranchised. They're upset that President Trump lost.
In a sign this threat is real, the FBI now announcing charges against Ian Rogers after authorities say they discovered an arsenal of 49 firearms and 5 fully functional pipe bombs after searching his home and business. The FBI claims Rogers was angry because President Trump lost and was preparing for an attack, allegedly texting, "I want to blow up a Democrat building bad. I hope 45, President Trump, goes to war. If he doesn't, I will." An attorney for Rogers says nothing indicates that he was actually planning an attack. But according to an FBI affidavit, authorities fear that Rogers of Napa may have had his sights on the California governor's office after recovering threatening text messages on his phone. Law enforcement on edge across the country as the FBI races to arrest all those who staged the insurrection on Capitol Hill. The massive scale of the probe becoming clearer. 400 suspects identified, hundreds more under investigation.
And in a startling conspiracy indictment released last night, Justice Department prosecutors claimed that some militia members were planning a response to Trump's loss as early as November and suggested a team as large as 40 members coordinated during the attack on the Capitol. We have been told sedition charges could be coming, Robin.
I mean, Mike Davis, we are not even 30 days out from, January the 6th. Joe Biden has only been president a little over a week now. What's your take on this? What's your take on the story?
First of all, I pick up on the terminology that gets used when we're looking at stories like this, where, they're still saying lone wolves. And I think we should be past the whole lone wolf thing. Like, these people came together, they conspired. These are domestic terrorists. This is not a one-off. These people know what they're doing. And to call them disenfranchised, that also strikes me weird. But in all honesty, Julie, I think one thing that's really on my heart when I really see these type of stories and hear that finally the FBI wants to take this serious is that, you know, we just had Martin Luther King's birthday, and we know how the FBI was on him. And what did he want? Dignity. But then you got these guys with guns and pipe bombs who are openly talking about blowing up government facilities, and they're just walking around alive. And I don't understand.
To blow up government buildings.
Yeah.
And then you have, you know, folks making statements like, well, I don't really think they were going to do anything. This man, Ian Rogers, had 49 firearms in his house. So how is it that you think somebody with 49 firearms,
Absolutely,
who's actively strategizing and mobilizing to, you know, to really strike on America, on Democrats, that he's not going to do anything? I think it's just, you know, when we have our white counterparts, you know, there's always some type of excuse. There's always a rationale. Oh, they won't do that. That's not going to happen. But I think January the 6th really showed us a new take. And, you know, these domestic terrorists they're emboldened. They are organized, and they're in mass groups. You know, they're a complete threat to our democracy, and I think we should absolutely not take this lightly. I see a couple people in the comments. Leon says this is scary stuff. It's actually it's a scary time. This is a scary time in America for sure, and we are not over the hills yet at all. So I don't know. I think, you know, this thing is boiling and brewing. FBI has identified 400 suspects, with, you know, hundreds more that, you know, weren't even there, that are suspects, that are still a part of this strategizing and things like that. So I think this will be, you know, we'll be covering this story, unfortunately, quite a bit, I think, throughout the next probably 4 years with Joe Biden in office. Right. You know, we laugh about it, but it's not a light subject.
Not at all.
All right. Well, we're going to move on. We're going to talk a little bit about some good news. Joe Biden opens up Obamacare exchange. So let's roll that clip.
President Biden will make it easier for Americans to buy health insurance during the pandemic. He's reopening the federal Obamacare marketplace with an executive order today. A 3-month special enrollment period will begin February 15th. That will offer a path to health care for people who lost their insurance when they lost their jobs.
This is great news. This is great news. I looked up a little bit of statistics. The Kaiser Family Foundation reported that there are about 15 million Americans that lack insurance, and that 15 million would be eligible to kind of enroll in this. So that's really good. And 4 million would qualify without premium. So that, I mean, during a time of a public health crisis, I mean, this is exactly what we need. So what do you think?
No, you're absolutely right. This is huge. This is Biden. This is Joe Biden again, cleaning up some more of Trump's messes. But when we have a global pandemic that has caused so many Americans to become unemployed in a country that tends to tie healthcare to employment, I mean, it only makes sense for the government to step up and make sure that people who are unemployed can still have health care. And it's terrible that that's a thing that has to be said, but it is. So again, hats off to Joe Biden. He's been doing a lot of work trying to repeal a lot of Trump's doing.
And I hope a lot of people actually take the necessary steps to obtain this, you know, this healthcare resource. So, you know, there's a 90-day window to go ahead and enroll during this special period of enrollment. People need to log onto your computer, you know, go to the website, fill out the information and get it done. So don't sit on it. Don't wait to the last minute, get on it immediately, you know, because healthcare does give you peace of mind. If you're sick and you don't have healthcare, you know, you're thinking about all the ways that you're going to avoid going to the hospital. You never want to go to the hospital. So, you know, I go to the doctor as much as possible. I'm like, shoot, I need this insurance premium I'm paying. Is that a call? I need to see the doctor. So even if you don't want to go into the hospital right now, you always have access to telehealth. And that's a whole nother thing. You can get on your phone and have a virtual consultation with your doctor. You can do a lot of preventative work at the hospital. I mean, in your doctor's office, build a relationship with your healthcare professional. So this is great news. And like you said, Joe Biden is saying Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah, because this is great news for the American people. Glad to see Biden is coming through. What do you guys think in the comments? I think Doris says, and Kaiser is one of the worst. What? I missed it. I'm sorry, sis.
Oh,
Kaiser's one of the worst plans. The cheapest ones don't cover. Dang, is Kaiser bad like that? I had Kaiser back in the day and it was great.
I mean, I was born at Group Health on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, I had
Kaiser, so they took care of me when I was a baby.
Yes, I had group health as well. That's because our parents worked for the city. See?
Yeah. Yeah.
We had that good group health. Listen, I had my wisdom teeth pulled out. My mom was like, look, before you go to college, you need to get everything done, because when you're 24, you're off my plan. So that was a big deal. When I got off my insurance plan at 24, I was like, what am I going to do? And there was a long period of time that I did not have health insurance. So
yeah,
if you guys don't have health insurance, get some Obamacare. Get you some Obamacare, some Biden care, okay?
Like that. Biden care.
You know what? We gonna text it to him. We're gonna tweet POTUS and let him know that you came up with that. All right, so we do have another story, pretty serious headline with Chad Wheeler. Not the happiest of stories. We do have this headline from the Seattle Times. Seahawks waive Chad Wheeler as he is charged with 3 counts in felony domestic violence case. Pretty serious allegations. I mean, I say allegations, but we know that this happened. We do have. Can we put up the slide of the victim? We do have a before of the young lady, beautiful Black queen. This was a before, and she did have something that she said that kind of paired with this, and so that's why I really hesitate to say allegedly. But this young woman, she suffered at the hands of a 6'7", 300-pound person who attempted to take her life. And I personally think that when we talk about this story, it's super important for us to highlight her and for us to keep her in our thoughts and prayers, because to go through something so tragic and dramatic, and then to have national coverage on the story where everybody knows your story. I mean, that's I understand how she feels. And, to have someone be your boyfriend, your live-in boyfriend at that, and someone who is supposed to be your safety net, your security, and to feel like that person snatched that safety from you is absolutely devastating. And, I can't empathize with her enough. And, when we talk about some of these stories of domestic violence and this was a heinous, one of the most disgusting stories that I've read. The victim stated that what was most terrifying was how cold he was. He thought I was dead on my bed and continued to eat dinner. When I ran into the bathroom, he said, "Wow, you're still alive," while sipping on a smoothie.
I mean,
let's
I'm sorry. I was going to just let that sit.
I was just going to say, let that sit for a minute.
There's so much here. And I read through that story as well. And, part of her statement also went into, and trigger warning for anyone who might not be able to handle it, but he choked her until she was unconscious. Then when she regained consciousness, he choked her again.
Mm-hmm.
And when I hear that, and there's more details than what I just said, like it's extremely graphic the way that he choked her, which sounds crazy, but if you read the story and look at that picture that we're seeing right now, and I really don't understand how the charge is not attempted murder. I mean,
I'm
when
going to
you
ask
choke
us to
someone
take
until
that
they're
down. Yeah.
unconscious and then let them regain consciousness and then choke them until they're unconscious again, how is that not attempted murder?
Well, so, and then also, a few of the things that I read was that not only was she strangled, but she was being strangled with her mouth being covered. And so I think rather than kind of diving into those intimate details, you guys can go look it up online. The fact of the matter is you saw the after picture of this young woman, and the issue, I take two issues with it. And one we were talking about offline that I didn't necessarily think about until Amari brought it up. But I'll leave it here for our audience to kind of think about. When we talk about our white counterparts who do something like this, number one, there was also the charge of resisting arrest, I believe. Is that correct,
Yeah,
Mike?
that is correct.
Yes. Okay. So we have this from the Seattle Times. I'm going to open this up a little wider so I can read this to you. So the charging papers say that it took 3 Kent police officers using hand strikes and tasers to wrestle Wheeler into custody after breaking down the door to the apartment he shared with his girlfriend in Kent. She suffered a broken arm and a dislocated elbow that will require surgery, along with injuries to her face, eye, throat, and lungs. The Seattle Times does not generally identify victims of domestic violence. Wheeler and his girlfriend dated for 6 months and moved in together in November. So not a long time at all, but it's interesting. So Amari brought up something, and, we all kind of chatted offline about this, and this is important for us to think about. This is a guy who is an offensive tackle. He's huge. He's 6'7", 300 pounds plus soaking wet. And he lived to see another day. It wasn't like, imagine a black man that big. And, in my mind, I'm thinking of the guy from the Green Mile, that big black man in the Green Mile.
Yeah.
Imagine, the men of color who have died in the hands of police because they are resisting arrest. And you see all of these viral videos, and it's the police officers are always saying, stop resisting, stop resisting, stop resisting. And they never make it home to their families. And this man, you have a woman who is essentially dead on the floor in the bathroom, hiding in a bathroom. And you're having to, take this guy down and, escort him, to the police station. It's
the benefit of the doubt that is afforded to white Americans that we see. I think that we see it in a lot of the stories that we're going to cover today. I think we've seen it in that domestic terrorism story where, that white guy with all the bombs and the guns and making threats,
absolutely
alive. And then you see this 6'7", 300-pound guy who they just refuse to see as a threat. Yet, when they see a 12-year-old Tamir Rice, he's a threat. When they look at a black man, somehow we're always a threat. It doesn't matter our size, our disposition, or anything, but you can be a 6'7", 300-pound white man, be in the process of resisting arrest, resisting tasers. You got your battered girlfriend barely conscious on the ground over there, and the police will still give you that benefit of the doubt that you're not enough of a danger to them to warrant anything outside of just the standard arrest. And it just blows my mind that we're still here and that we still have this type of discrepancy. And unfortunately, we're going to talk about this more in stories coming up tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I'll leave with one final thought, and then we'll go ahead and move on because, as you said, this is something we're going to talk about. But you think about the media constantly legitimizes stories like this by offering, our white counterparts something, like offering, oh, well, there has to be some explanation. There has to be, this mental health piece. They really covered this story by highlighting that Chad Wheeler, suffered from mental illness. And he very well may have. The issue I take with that is because despite having a mental illness or despite needing mental health services, this man attempted to murder this Black woman, left her for dead, resisted arrest, got arrested, and came home on bail. He didn't go to an institution. He was not hospitalized. He was not taken into, some type of mental facility to get looked at, to be to figure out how he could just reemerge back into society. He was given the benefit of the doubt because he was not a threat to the criminal justice system. He's not a threat to law enforcement. He's not a threat to anyone. And so I appreciate, having platforms like Converge Media that actually speak out about these double standards that we see in America. And, and we will not legitimize stories like this. And so, again, prayers go out to the victim in this story. I'm sure that we'll have a lot more to cover about this as the details roll in. The Seahawks gave a very sad, very snowflake, soft statement. They're saddened by this, and they hope that Chad can get the help that he needs. How about someone puts a coin up to make sure that my good sis gets what she needs? How about that? How about that? I mean, he's not even a player on your team anymore, but you just hope he gets the help that he needs. I don't know Chad Wheeler. I don't want to say what he did or what he did not do, but the fact remains the same. When we cover stories like this, we are going to make sure that we give you guys the perspective of the culture, right? Because when we sit around and we have these kitchen table conversations, we need to be able to identify the disparities in the story. And so we are a media channel that is going to continue to talk about that perspective that's not addressed in cable news. So that's where I'm at with it. We can leave the story there for a minute and we'll come back to it. We'll
definitely come back to it. This story will still develop. At some point, the NFL is going to need to come out and give us a statement. They also have a zero tolerance policy on domestic violence. So hopefully he doesn't get to play football again. We hear all the comparisons to Ray Rice. I would just say, go look up Ray Rice and look at how much apologizing he did. Look at how much atonement that he did. He did a lot. I honestly look at the comparison more to Michael Vick, who went to prison for 23 months for
dog fighting,
for harming animals. Not only did he lose his career, go to jail, he lost his endorsements, had to pay the Atlanta Falcons money back, 2008 he filed for bankruptcy. He lost everything over dog fighting. So when we see this brutal crime, when we see that picture that we had to put up of that Black woman, we better see some justice and we better see it soon.
Ooh, child, we're gonna leave it at that. So this we're gonna roll into our break, but when we come back, we're gonna keep talking about these comparison analysis on the justice system in America. Let's go ahead and take a quick break. You guys grab a snack and we'll be right here.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your man, the Big O. Want to take a moment here, first of all, to say thank you for your support of Converge Media. We definitely wouldn't be here without you. Secondly, I want to thank everybody who is a supporter of Converge Media on Patreon. We definitely appreciate your support. And for those of you might not know, I'll let you know, we operate 100% off of donations. Some donations big, most donations small, but we love all donations all the same. If you haven't done so yet, I want to encourage you to go on our website to whereweconverge.com/donate. And subscribe. You click on the Patreon link and you can subscribe for as little as $5 a month. There's higher tiers beyond that as well. And just know that your subscription literally keeps us on the air. Once again, want to thank you for all your support.
All right, we're back from break. Let's get right into it. So I mentioned before that we're going to talk a little bit about some of the people that were arrested in the Capitol riot arrest. One person that I want to highlight who has been buzzing in the news is 22-year-old Riley Williams. And there was a graphic, a meme, as you will, kind of going around of somebody comparing, America's two justice systems. And I'm going to blow this up on my screen so I can see it a little better. But they're comparing the case of Riley Williams to Khalif Broder. And while we keep this on the screen, I'm going to tell you guys, I'm going to do a little storytelling to give you guys a little bit of context before we break this down. So Riley Williams, she's a 22-year-old white female out of Pennsylvania, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. She is accused of stealing a laptop and hard drive from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's office during the Capitol riots and plotting to sell it to the Russians. She also was heard on several video footages from the Capitol riots where she's heard being yelling, upstairs, upstairs, upstairs. And you can see her physically directing intruders to proceed upstairs in a staircase. The video also shows her, the video is also streaming her and other intruders actually going up to a nearby staircase. People are comparing this to Khalif Broder, who at the time was a 16-year-old black male from Bronx, New York. And he was pretty much apprehended by the police after leaving a party, him and his friend. And he initially thought the police were just carrying out like a stop and frisk routine. And he kind of just let it go. And, he thought it was kind of procedural. And, they stopped him on a number of occasions. And, he's kind of quoted saying like, hey, I didn't rob anybody. Like, I'm good. You can check my pocket. So the police come up to him and his friend. They're accusing Khalif of stealing a backpack. And in the backpack, it had some camera equipment, I think $700 in cash, and some various other items. What's important to know about this is that Broder was identified by an eyewitness who was sitting in the police car. Now, the witness who was in the police car said that the theft had occurred 2 weeks earlier. Now that's interesting. So here you are, you're a 16-year-old kid, you're leaving a party with your homeboy, you think it's a standard stop and frisk, you're on your way home. You comply. You let the police do what they do. They don't find a backpack on you because this person is alleging that you stole this backpack 2 weeks ago. So they didn't find anything, but they say, okay, we're going to take you down to the police station and we'll get it all resolved. So they take him to the police station and he's booked, to his surprise, right? So he's like, okay, well, I'll just, I'll go to jail, I'll bail out, and, everything will be everything. So let's keep the two stories in alignment. So now Riley Williams, she's arrested, but she wasn't just arrested. She ran, she obstructed this. So here she is. This clip shows you guys some clips from that can be seen on YouTube on ITV. Clearly her, a former boyfriend identified her to federal officials, to the FBI, and said, without a doubt, that's her. So she has been identified. She's on camera. She's on tape. And so Khalif, he's not on tape. You have an eyewitness, which we know eyewitness testimony is never good. And, rarely is something that you can use to substantiate in court. And he didn't have anything on him. This young woman, of course, is, her official charges are theft, obstruction, trespassing, which is an offense that can be punishable up to 20 years. as well as violent entry and disorderly conduct. So now what happened to her, Mike? She got home. She's home. She's home. She's home on home detention. This was a interesting tweet that I found, you guys. This is a tweet from a public defender, and she said, Riley Williams is accused of stealing Pelosi's laptop in the U.S. Capitol attack to sell to Russians and was released from custody. As a public defender, I represented a man held in on bail for stealing cough syrup and toothpaste from Dwayne Reed. 2 systems of justice. Khalif Broder served 3 years in Rikers, one of the most violent prison systems in America. He was 16. He was a kid. He served 3 years. His case was ultimately dismissed. He would not take any plea deals because he said, this is not what I did. He was beat by police. He was beat by gangs, and he served almost 2 years in solitary confinement. This young woman invaded the Capitol, stole House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's laptop, threatened to sell it to the Russians as if they're enemies, to tweeted about it. I stole blank from Nancy Pelosi. I don't care. I took Nancy Pelosi's hard drives. I don't care. Kill me. She's admitting to her crimes. She's on camera. She's admitting to her crimes. She evaded police. She deleted all her social media. Her mom even said, hey, I don't know. She packed a bag. She got up out of here and left when police came by to see her. And the judge said, you know what? She doesn't have any prior. So we're just going to let her go ahead and go home on home detention. Khalif served 3 years in Rikers as a child and 2 years in solitary confinement. He attempted suicide many times. He said that, when he was in Rikers, that's how he learned how to commit suicide. And he ultimately took his own life when he got home thereafter at 22 years old. So that's why people are comparing it on the internet. It's such a heartbreaking story to think about the Khalif Broder story and just how violent his life was those few years. And again, this is a really tough story for me to get through because, as you guys know, I have a loved one that's incarcerated, many of which that are incarcerated. And, it's a clear to America's when when we think about just the handling of that Chad Wheeler case or the handling of even Ian Rogers, these people who attempted to interfere with Congress's constitutional obligation to certify the Electoral College results. That's what they came to do. They came for blood. And people are home on home detention. So what do we do? You think we break stories down like this and then you're just exhausted. Like, what do we do?
It's so exhausting. And I appreciate your deep dive into this and for bringing it into the light. I mean, man, there's so much here that it's hard to even decide where to begin. I mean, the search for the backpack. I mean, we all know how racist the stop and frisk was in New York. Mm-hmm. There's all the stats that show, and there's even stats from 2017 that showed that 90% of the Black and Latino folks that got stopped and frisked had nothing on them. So, I mean, even that in itself is a major issue. But one of the things that jumped out about this story with Khalif was that he had bail originally.
Yeah.
And when his family went to the bail bondsman, their portion out of pocket to pay was $900. Mm-hmm. And they didn't have it originally. Yep. And how many times have we seen poor Black folks have to sit in jail over the most minimal of charges because they don't have bail? And then on the other side, you see rich white folks who can commit the most heinous of crimes. But if they can bail out, they'll be home. But when we're talking about Khalif, his family went home, they worked with neighbors, they raised the money came back and
Yep.
still got denied because of his probation. So they
Right.
still found a way to keep this kid in this adult jail in solitary. And his mental, it did so much. Solitary confinement is so inhumane. To
You
have a
know,
person locked up alone for that many hours a day, it's inhumane. It just is. And to do it to a kid, to mentally break that young man in that way, to where he tried over and over to kill himself while he was in, and then was successful in suicide when he got out. I mean, I want to say that the system is broken, but sometimes it feels like the system works exactly as it was intended to work. And that's unfortunate.
this story is just so close to home, and you think about I never really knew about the criminal justice system until I had to play in it. And I think a lot of Americans will say that when you're a law-abiding citizen, you're not thinking about, what the procedural ways to do, to go through the court system. You don't think about that because you just abide by the law. And then, you somehow you find your way in court and you have this attorney and they're almost just ready to push you through. Right.
Yeah.
And so they want you to plead out. 90% of cases that go through the federal courts, people plead out. Unless you have $1 million to go to trial, you don't have enough to defend yourself in court. You're not going to get an opportunity to go to court. And so, Wanda Lockridge on the screen, she said, this story is so hard to hear. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. Ms. Lockridge, we write letters. This is my chief of staff for Councilman Trayon Wright. We write letters on a daily basis for residents that are incarcerated that want to make pleas to their judges just to say, character reference letters or, statements on, compassionate release or that they're no longer a threat to the community. And some of these people are young. Are incarcerated at 15.
It's so hard to see, especially when you also have to look at the wealth gap. And we know the wealth gap that exists in the Black community. But when you see a case like Khalif's, where if he had the money to fight his case, he probably could have won. But he didn't have the money to fight the case, and he didn't have the money for bail. And then on the other side, you read stories where sometimes the state doesn't even want to pay money to take some of these cases to trial, where people with money to fight just get to walk because the state doesn't want to pay the fee to take it to court. So it's hard to be poor and it's hard to be Black in America. And man, this story just, as soon as you said that we were going to talk about this, my heart just dropped because there's a documentary. It's so well documented, but it's such a sad story.
Absolutely. I think you guys, it's a very sad story. It's a 3-part episode or 3-part series on Netflix. You guys can pull it up on Netflix. Just go in your search tool and go. It's the Khalif Broder story. There's so much information on this young man. This is the story of the untold. This is we all know a Khalif, right?
Yes,
I know a Khalif right now. It's just, I try not to overshare with you guys so much on the show, but believe me, I know these prison systems in and out. I know it personally. I go through it personally. I hear the stories. I hear what's happening. I know what's going on. So when I listen to news coverage and go on the internet and see this stuff from just people kind of tweeting about it, this criminal justice system, as you said, isn't broken. It is designed to do this. It is designed to keep people incarcerated and held down and chained and freedoms to be sacrificed. People are literally in slave camps for non-violent offenses. Right now, I can guarantee you there's absolutely no protection for COVID. People are not wearing masks. You have no opportunity to clean. You have no cleaning materials. If you do catch coronavirus, you better believe you're not going to get accepted for compassionate release. Judges are it's just business as usual. And it's absolutely sickening. And I will be glad when this nightmare is over for me personally. And, you know, I really feel passionate about it. Like, this is something I should have done. I was talking to my husband's lawyer, and she was like, Jules, you should have been a lawyer, because I was going in. I was like, well, actually, blah, 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 blah. She was like, I said, you know what? I should have went to law school. I really should have. I said, but you're his lawyer, so you're going to have to do everything I just told you. And let me CC you in on this email. But people don't have advocates like me. Khalif Broder didn't have an advocate like this. He didn't have an advocate like this.
I'll say you are using the platform to shed light, and that matters. That matters.
Yeah.
So no, you're not a lawyer, but if we can come here and have these discussions and shed light on topics like this, that it's meaningful. There's a lot of meaning behind that.
So Riley Williams, she's released on house arrest. She had a virtual hearing on the 25th. So that was this week. I was not able to pull up any details from her court appearance. So I'm interested to find out a little bit more on that. Hopefully that'll come out. When it does, I plan to clap back at that and see what happens. You know, again, her mom is like, oh, well, she's just such a great person. And, you know, her lawyer is, you know, saying, well, she's a victim of domestic violence. And, you know, the boyfriend, or the, you know, the former romantic partner who is witness number one in her case, who identified her in a number of these videos, and actually was the person to call in on her tail and say, this is Riley Williams and I know her, and go ahead and lock her up.
Yeah, let's not make her the victim. I hope that's the last.
No, well, that's what the attorney did. That's what the attorney did. So, you know, and a judge feels sympathy, because again, it goes back to your earlier point. You know, she's not a threat. She is not a threat. You know, the first clip that we showed you guys on that domestic terror alert, these people are not considered a threat. They are emboldened. This feeling of this brewing and boiling because their president, their election was stolen, and they have every right to take America back. And if they don't, you know, I'm gonna, you know, forge a war. But they're not a threat, you know. But you know who's a threat? You.
Us. And I know that we have to go to break, but I just think you're absolutely right. They're not a threat. We have these domestic terrorists who they refuse to look at in that light. And I guess I only wish that they would have looked at the Black Panthers in that light, but unfortunately they didn't. But we have to take it to break, and we will be right back. And we're going to talk about GameStop on the other side. Thanks for joining.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your man, the Big O. Want to take a moment here, first of all, to say thank you for your support of Converge Media. We definitely wouldn't be here without you. Secondly, I want to thank everybody who is a supporter of Converge Media on Patreon. We definitely appreciate your support. And for those of you might not know, I'll let you know, we operate 100% off of donations. Some donations big, most donations small, but we love all donations all the same. If you haven't done so yet, I want to encourage you to go on our website to whereweconverge.com/donate and subscribe. You click on the Patreon link and you can subscribe for as little as $5 a month. There's higher tiers beyond that as well. And just know that your subscription literally keeps us on the air. Once again, I want to thank you for all your support.
Welcome back from break. Listen, this GameStop story is like huge, man. And I'm a baby trader. You know, I use Thinkorswim. I have a little thing going on Robinhood. You know, one thing about this story that I really like is it's really buzzing. And a lot of people in my friend circle are talking about trading. And I'll let you lead the story, but I'm glad we're talking about it because it brings up the discussion of financial literacy and how we need to really invest in the stock market. But this is a little bit different because it seems like these hedge funders got boofed on their own game. So I'll let you lead it up.
Yes, absolutely. And bear with me, y'all, because I am not that deep in the stock market game either. I do have my Robinhood account for sure, but I'm definitely going to have to take it to the notes here. But what we have is we have a Wall Street hedge fund, Melvin Capital Management, who the Wall Street Journal said was one of the top performing hedge funds on Wall Street. So what these hedge funds like to do is that they'll make a series of short bets, which basically means that they are betting on a particular stock to lose value. And as that stock loses value, the hedge funds are able to make money. So it's a short sale. They basically borrow the stock, they sell it immediately. And
Right.
if the value of the stock goes down,
I
they're able to I'm sorry?
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm trying to follow along.
They borrow the stock, they immediately sell it. And if the value of that stock goes down, they're able to buy that stock back. And then they can return the borrowed stock and then still have stocks left over without spending any of their own private money. So when you have huge hedge funds like Melvin Capital Management, they can do this on the scale of millions. And this is what they had planned to do with GameStop. But then the Reddit forum, Wall Street Bets, got a hold of that information and they reached out to their 2 million followers and they encouraged them all to buy shares and options of GameStop.
Right.
And when they did this, it drove the stock price of GameStop through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
And when that happened, Melvin Capital lost money in the billions.
And went bankrupt.
They were going to go bankrupt, but then they had Citadel LLC and Point72, which are like these shadow hedge fund companies that like work in financial management assistance for hedge funds. They stepped up and gave Melvin Capital $3 billion to avoid that bankruptcy, or else, yes, they would have had to go bankrupt because they wouldn't have had enough money to rebuy those shares and return what was borrowed for the short sale. So they got bailed out. Now, the interesting piece in all of this is where we have Robinhood. Robinhood is an app for individual investors like myself, people who are not on Wall Street, but want to try to get in the game. Now, according to their last financial reports, Robinhood, as of January, had over 13 million users. And according to Motherboard, which is a part of Vice Media, over half of Robinhood's users owned shares of GameStop. So we're talking about millions of users that had this, that were making this money hand over foot. And then Robinhood decides to freeze the stock and stop its users from being able to purchase GameStop shares. And when they did this, it stopped the bleeding from Melvin Capital. And they literally sided with big business over the individuals like me and you who are trying to get in the game. So it's a really, really interesting story, especially when we look at, you know, how all of the Wall Street cats always talk about free market, the market will regulate itself. And then when they make a mistake and they're bleeding billions of dollars, what do? They reach out to the app with the 13 million users and they make sure that the individuals can't continue to make the hedge fund bleed.
This story was super complicated for me to put together. I mean, it took me months just to learn how to trade options. And even with that, I was like, oh my God, I'm reading all these indicators. And then it's just like, look, they need to teach this stuff in school.
Absolutely.
Well, first of all, you guys, I use a system called Thinkorswim, which is much like Robinhood, but really like a little bit step up because I don't know if you can trade options on Robinhood, but it's interesting. Oh, you can. Okay. I love Robinhood. It's very user friendly. I encourage everybody to try your hand. I mean, you don't have to use a lot of money, but do $100 investment, $200 investment, take your stimmy and invest in yourself and, learn to trade. Something like this where these folks got together on Reddit. I need to join Reddit and see what's going on.
For real.
It's going down at Reddit, just to think about the number of people that it took to believe that this could happen, and someone identifying this hedge fund and saying, you know what, we're going to take them out. And I heard that these guys are actually looking for more hedge funds to do the same thing too. So
we might have a follow-up here because there are other stocks that were in the same boat. One of them was AMC Theaters, for example. That's also frozen right now on Robinhood. You can no longer purchase it. If you have it, you can sell it. That's the only activity that they will allow. So I feel like there should be a follow-up here, definitely.
I think there has to be a follow-up. Again, this is a little over my pay grade.
People made a lot of money. So my girlfriend, for example, when she signed up for Robinhood, her free stock, like you get one free share.
Right. Oh, with
GameStop. She got GameStop for free. And when we woke up this morning, it was at $454 for a free share. So when I think about the people on Reddit who had went and bought multiple shares, a lot of people made a lot of money. And then Wall Street stepped in and decided to block it. So very interesting story. We'll definitely follow up. But we need to talk financial literacy and let people know. I mean, these savings accounts don't give you any interest for your money. There's no bang for your buck. If you can learn how to navigate the stock market or even use a simple app like Acorns that will invest money on your behalf, your return is going to be so much bigger. It's night and day.
I sent you that screenshot today where the conversation, just the number of increased conversations of my peer population having conversations about the stock market and using apps like Robinhood, like Acorn, like Thinkorswim. It's amazing to just be having these conversations. And one person, had posted out on Facebook. One of my friends was like, you know what? Had I learned about this a long time ago, I would have never been on the block. And so you can make so much money. When I was 16, I was a bank teller. So I was one of the high school interns that worked at Washington Mutual Bank, which is, I think, I don't even know what bank it is. Oh, it's Wells Fargo now, I think. So
Chase.
Oh, it's Chase. Well, dang, that it must have been one after the other. So anyway, back in the day, it was Washington Mutual for me. And so I was really fond of the stockbroker who worked in the branch with me. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot about banking, and I got to see a lot of people with a lot of money. So it always made me very it made me very interested in money. So I definitely encourage, those folks on here who are parents, teach your kids financial literacy. Don't wait for them to grow up. Some kids don't even know how to write a check. So if anything, put them on the Robinhood, put them on the Thinkorswim. Let's get these stocks going. We should be able to buy stuff for Christmas like that.
Yes, and I know we're almost out of here, but we have a quick video. This video does a really great job at explaining everything that's going on. So if we could run this video clip real fast, I'd appreciate it.
Stocks have seen huge gains, including GameStop and Robinhood today GameStop reversing course today after those brokers restricted trade on that. We are also getting reports that Robinhood has reportedly been hit with a lawsuit over the removal of GameStop, and that lawsuit seeking a class action status filed in federal court in New York. Let's bring in the CEO of Webull, Anthony Denier. And Anthony, your platform also among those that's restricted trade for the likes of AMC as well as GameStop. We were talking about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez now jumping in on the debate, saying that she would be for a hearing in this if it's necessary. Why restrict the trade, and what led to that action?
Well, it wasn't our choice. Our clearing firm gave us a call and said, we're going to have to stop allowing new opening positions in the three names, AMC, GME, and KOSS. Highly volatile. And what happens is this is not a political decision. And unfortunately, it got political. I think I think it was once said that don't let any good crisis go to waste. And that's clearly what's happening here. And we're seeing politicians jump on the bandwagon so they can start trending on Twitter. But in reality, what's going on is that there is a 2-day settlement between if you buy the stock today, those brokerage firms that you bought that stock on have to fund that trade with the clearing central house called DTC for 2 whole days. And because of the volatility of these stocks, DTC has made the cost of the collateral for the two-day holding period extremely expensive. And we just can't afford, we're not a clearing firm, but our clearing firm simply cannot afford the cost to settle those trades. We cannot use customer funds to front that cost due to regulation. So the brokerages or the clearing firms have to go into their own pockets to do it, and they simply can't afford the cost of that trade clearance. That is the reason why these stocks are coming off. Has nothing to do with the decision or some sort of closed room smoke-filled cigar room of Wall Street firms getting together to the dismay of the retail trader. This has to do with settlement mechanics of the market.
I'll say this, that's a real fancy way to pass the buck on to the next person. It wasn't us, it was them. What I will say is there is a class action lawsuit for market manipulation. So we will definitely follow this story, and he can use all that fancy talk he wants in that video clip, but we're going to settle this in court. So we'll definitely follow this story as it develops, and we will keep all of you informed on what's going on.
Good. Look, I think Leon put in the comments, this is true. He put in the comments that it's better to have a good stock portfolio. Otherwise, you're just gambling. That's the truth. When I first started trading, I was like, this is like gambling, and I don't like gambling. So stock portfolio, thank you for the correction. I'm excited to talk more about this story. I'm excited to learn more about it. Man, this is going to be 2021 is getting off to one heck of a start, man.
Man, so much. How is there so much happening this fast?
It's only 28 days in. I feel like the year just never stopped. We just rolled. We're just on a treadmill right now.
It really did. Well, this has definitely been a fun one, y'all. We are up against time. But again, we appreciate everybody for joining us tonight. Thank you to everybody that's been in the comments. We love doing this show with you. So we appreciate that. Julia, you want to? South Seattle Emerald is writing a story on clapback culture, and the reporter has asked us to have a listener be quoted. Yeah, they want to quote one of our listeners in the story. So please, if you're interested in being quoted in the story about clapback culture, please reach out so that we can put you in contact with the journalist that's going to write the article.
Yeah, so drop your email in the comments or send an email through
DM us. You should send us a DM. We don't want to give everybody. We don't want to give everybody your email. But if you DM me or DM Julia, we'll make sure that we connect you.
So you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Treasure of JULES.
You can find me on Twitter at Real M Davis.
So that's our show. Thank you for watching Clapback Culture. We will see you on Thursday. Have a good weekend.
Peace.